Well, good morning and welcome again to the North America Symposium 2015. Just a technical detail, actually, we've been a leader for 6 years, Henry. But for what it's worth, I still trust you. I don't know if our customers will anymore. It's a great pleasure to have everyone here with us. I know that time is one of our most precious commodities, and it means a lot to me personally and to all of our team that you would spend 2 days here with the Liferay team. This morning, I want to talk about digital business, and I want to relate that to a new product that we're announcing today, which is Liferay 7. And my goal is to show you that some of the biggest challenges, but also opportunities that we're facing in this realm of digital transformation, hopefully can be assisted by the technologies that our team has been working so hard to build over the last several years. So to start off, I wanted to quantify the opportunity a little bit because I think for those of us who have been in the IT industry for some time, you may remember a similar time of transition and enthusiasm that we went through at the turn of the century. Way back in 1999, which is when I personally started my career, there were a number of companies that saw the limitless potential of the internet. And of course, we had all of the crazy valuations, all of the crazy companies that were created during that time. And I got this information from Andreessen Horowitz, which is a venture capitalist. And they're arguing for why, quote unquote, it's different this time. Of course, it always is. But they had some meaningful numbers to back up the idea. One of which is that the sheer amount of commerce that's being transacted online has grown over 15 times since 1999. Now close to $350 billion in e-commerce and online advertising is going on as of 2014. And that's very interesting, but even more interesting than that is that we're still only scratching the surface of the total potential of commerce that we can do using e-business methodologies. Here you can see that the blue section we just saw is still only 6% of the total commerce we do here in the U.S. So the opportunity is huge. The challenge might be great for you if you're a company that is relying on more traditional ways of transacting and selling and buying. So what do we actually mean when we talk about digital business? Well, it is a little bit more than what I call e-business as usual. Here you see an application form for a Citibank credit card that you can fill out online. And it takes all your information, and I presume that it then takes it into their regular business process for approving credit cards, for determining your spending limit, and so forth. But in contrast, here's this business called Lending Club. Lending Club is actually completely obliterating the traditional banking model by going peer-to-peer. So instead of servicing your loan as a traditional bank with all of the fees involved in that, they're connecting lenders and borrowers together directly, and they're giving the lenders, which are people like you and me, higher rates than you're getting in the bank accounts, and they're also giving lower interest rates to the borrowers. It's a completely peer-to-peer system, and there was even an article about Lending Club and other companies like them in the Financial Times over the weekend. And they were showing that what began as really a whisper of activity back in 2008 now has grown to nearly $13 billion in terms of loans that have been serviced by Lending Club. In another article in the same newspaper, they talked about how this is possible. And some of the factors involved include the fact that they don't have to have physical branches. They don't have a lot of requirements, fiduciary requirements to governments. And perhaps most interestingly to us, they don't have to deal with, quote, costly legacy IT systems. So they're taking that efficiency and they're passing it directly to the consumer in a time when traditional banking is going through somewhat of a crisis. And they're being forced to reevaluate their strategy. Companies like Lending Club, other peer-to-peer lending networks are growing. Up to $8.8 billion was loaned annually as of 2014. So we see the financial services industry being shaken up by digital technologies, but it's also happening in industries as traditional as agriculture. You may have heard of Agrobotics. They are a company based in the Midwest, and they are using a combination of drones and cloud-based big data analytics to change the way that farmers manage and respond to the needs of their crops. Here you can see a digitally enhanced overhead map of one of the crops of their customers, and you can very clearly see where they should be focusing their attention, and so they can actually save costs as far as fertilization and water, but also they're going to get much better crop yields than before. And of course, this has significant impacts as our world population grows to 7 billion people and our food needs become ever more acute. Agrobotics is just one of many companies who, for the last 10 years, have been using various digital technologies to change the way that we do agriculture. They call this precision farming. And in a study by the Boston Consulting Group, they are predicting that wireless communications devices implanted directly on farming technology, farming tools, will give constant and instantaneous feedback on every aspect of agriculture and growing crops. I actually thought that agrobotics was something really forward-thinking and really cool, but as I looked into it deeper, I found that even farmers in Europe, in places like Poland, the UK, and Germany, which I don't personally think of as the most technologically forward-thinking people, 60% of them are saying that precision farming technology is going to make a significant impact in their industry in the next 15 years. Finally, one of my favorite examples of digital transformation is what Disney is doing with digital wristband technology. If you have signed up to visit their Disney World theme park in Florida within the last couple of years, you may have had this experience. They will send you the Disney Magic Wristband in the mail ahead of your trip. They will give you access to their mobile apps and their websites so you can plan your trip. And then once you're actually there at the park, you will use this wristband to do everything from getting into your hotel room to making payments to collecting your photos from Splash Mountain. But they're also using it to add a little bit of extra magic to the experience. They have a thing called enchanted art. And basically, when you're wearing one of these wristbands and you approach one of these paintings, you'll actually see something pretty neat. And we have a video to show how that works.
Remember the pirate code. No swimming without your floaties. This can't be a real pirate ship. We never had no water slide.
So you can just get a sense of what kind of enchanted experience this would be for kids who are visiting the park. And then, of course, I'm sure they can extend this further with personalized messages, actually knowing the names of the visitors and so forth. So here we have three very different examples of digital transformation going on in three very different industries. From something as far-reaching as a fully newly developed business model with peer-to-peer banking, to using very cutting-edge technology to create new possibilities and new opportunities in agriculture, to simply enhancing with a little bit of thought and imagination an existing experience at Disney World. They are very different in terms of industries and approaches, but I think the things that they have in common is that they are possible because of agility in the business, being able to completely change the way that you do business, using new technologies in innovative ways, and then finally the most important thing, which is understanding your customer and giving them what they need. So this is the environment in which we, as a company, as a team, have built Liferay 7. This is the next version of the Liferay portal. But with Liferay 7, what we've realized is that now we've extended much more than just being a portal. And we've built a collection of products and technologies that work together to make it possible to respond to these challenges of digital business transformation. Some of it is very familiar and similar to the problems that we've been trying to solve for many years, and some of it actually requires a completely new way of thinking about it. So fundamentally, your company, your organization, has a number of assets at their disposal, and you want to be able to deploy those assets to meet customer needs. Your customers, on the other hand, may be at different stages of their relationship with you. They have different needs, desires. They may or may not have built up loyalty to you. And one of the problems of traditional business has been that the way that you bring these two things together, the assets of your company and the needs and wants of your customers, has been through predetermined and very specific modes of interaction. So, of course, there is the physical shop where you might meet your customers and they may purchase goods. Or if you're a business-to-business company, you might be meeting in their office or vice versa. Of course, now we do a lot of business transactions over the internet, and we even do it over mobile apps now. But in each of these cases, there is sort of a mindset or an approach of creating silos. You can have multi-channel, you can have digital and physical presence, but if you're treating each one of them as an individual channel, then you're still thinking in terms of silos. So what's wrong with silos? Well, there's two main problems that I see. The first is that silos are very rigid and slow to adapt. So when we look at these companies that are changing the way that they do business, we said that they had to be agile. Well, you can't do that when legacy technology or documents or information or even the knowledge that people have is locked up in repositories or even in websites that have been built over a long time and are very difficult to manage and to change. So silos make it hard for your business to adapt, and they also require all of your customers to meet you at these predetermined places. When you think about portal technology in general, and even Liferay, I think we've been a great silo factory. In the past, we've talked about building websites and portals and intranets, and over the last couple of years, we've even talked about mobile apps. But there was still an overall mentality of the silo. So let's integrate all your back-end systems. Let's get those assets out so that they're reusable. And then let's surface them to these sites so that customers can access them. But fundamentally, you still got that silo effect. So now with Liferay 7, we want to change the way that we approach customers, and we want to change the way that we enable you to approach your customers. So here we still have customers on one side and your company on the other. We are still, of course, exposing, integrating, and making accessible back-end systems of all kinds. But now we're expanding it. We're saying that it's not just your back-end stuff. It's also SaaS services. Probably most of us are using Salesforce, Eloqua, HubSpot, or any number of business services that are delivered on the cloud. And of course, there are all these social media channels and the people in your organization that have knowledge locked up that you need to free and make available to your customers. So one of the key themes in Liferay 7 is going to be modularity. There are going to be plenty of talks on that, so I won't go into it in too much detail. But modularity essentially is all about releasing a lot of these assets to make them available for your customers. So now, presumably, we've got all of the assets of your company available to be used, and you've got customers. And they are expressing their different desires, wants, and needs. And so you're responding to them in agile fashion by saying, these are the resources that we have that meet your need. And how do you want to consume it? Well, in this case, maybe it's a website. In another case, it may be through a mobile device of some kind. We've been seeing a lot of digital kiosks. If you go to the airport and you check in for a flight, you're interacting with one. And if you've been to any of our Liferay events in Europe, you would also be interacting with an iPad for your registration. With Liferay 7, we see more and more in-person transactions being digitally enhanced. When we meet at events like this or when we speak over the phone, we want to be able to capture that and make that part of the story of you as our customer. And then finally, of course, there's so much talk about the Internet of Things, but this really is more than hype. It's more than just a buzzword, but it is fundamentally transforming businesses as we've seen. So through all of these interactions, through all of these digital touch points, we want to create interactions of engagement between your company and your customers. We want to match the resources that you have with the needs that the customer has at any given moment. And we want to be able to do it through the mode of interaction of their choice. Of course, engagement means more than just creating interactions, but we also need to understand them. Does the website or the app that you've just built, does it actually meet the needs of your customers? Well, you'll never know unless you measure and you understand and then you evolve those interactions over time. And then finally, in the era of digital engagement, you need something that's going to bring it all together. And I'm going to have to come back here. I missed that. I see. It's really hard to see the faint blue, but part of our vision with Liferay 7 is to unify with a single digital platform across all of these interactions. So we no longer think about funneling our customers through all of these predetermined points. We give them freedom to interact with us at the time of their choosing and through the channel of their choosing. But what that means is as these interactions multiply, there needs to be something that ties that all together. What do we know about you as one of our customers if you do or don't use our events app? What do we know about you from interactions through Liferay Sync or through Liferay.com or our customer portal? Instead of treating each of these as isolated interactions, we want to get a full picture of who you are and who we are to you through all of these digital touch points. So where is Liferay in this picture? Well, quite frankly, Liferay is a little bit of everywhere. So, of course, there is the core portal and the services container that does a lot of that plumbing and hard work for you. But we're also in the interfaces for creating those websites and mobile devices and digital interfaces. So we've now expanded to be much more than this one single product through which everything funnels through, but rather we have a collection that all work together to support your digital strategy. So I want to take some time to break that down. The first part, which is releasing your enterprise assets, this is something that Liferay has been doing for quite some time. And I thought a good way to summarize that is that you want to be able to deploy the right assets to the customers at the right moment in their journey. And as an example of how Liferay has done that, even before Liferay 7, I wanted to look at our document management strategy. So in your organization, you may have any number of repositories, from traditional enterprise repositories like FileNet to new SaaS-based ones like Box.net. Of course, you're going to have any number of paper documents as well. So our approach as a platform has always been to provide integration, API access, and web and mobile clients so that you can make all of those assets exposed and usable and then get them into the hands of your users. So you can engage anywhere, whether it's on a web or a mobile device. But with Liferay 7, what we're adding to the mix, which I mentioned, is modularity. And again, this is such a technical concept that it's very difficult for me to explain. And so this was the best way I could think of to try to explain it. But hopefully what you actually end up with is much more beautiful than this. But suffice it to say that modularity enables you to shorten the cycles for you to create mobile apps and websites, to release your enterprise assets and simplify development. And as you sit in additional sessions on this topic throughout the next couple of days, I think you'll see how modularity is a key part of our digital strategy. The second part, creating engaging digital experiences. Liferay has now for some time been used to create a number of really great immersive web experiences, like the one you see here from Banyan Tree that they use as their public-facing website. With Liferay 7, we want to modernize our content management system, and we have invested a great deal in that. I'll just give you a small taste of it now, but 2015 websites are very different from the websites of 1999, suffice it to say. We have evolved over the years, but we've realized that we need to make a significant investment further in the content management space. You've already seen some of that with our audience targeting, which has been available since last year, and we're taking that further. As one example, digital media websites, if you read sites like The Verge or even Forbes.com, you can see that the way that they dynamically tailor content and deliver it to you based on what you've read and what you've expressed as your interest in the past is fundamentally different from the very static format of a newspaper that was the basis for digital media websites of the past. So that's something we're going to be investing a lot in. As a layer on top of all of this, whether we're talking about web or mobile, you're going to see some new developments in our authoring and editing capabilities. So with Liferay 7, we have implemented our Alloy editor, which is just a tremendous improvement over the editing capabilities that we had in prior versions of Liferay. We have, of course, also considered mobile, and so you'll find that a lot of content can be authored directly from your mobile devices as well. So speaking of mobile, if you've been part of the Liferay ecosystem for the last couple of years, you know that we have invested significantly in making it easier for you to create mobile apps. But simply creating mobile apps is just one part of our vision. With 6.2, we have released responsive design that is built into the platform. And so any site that you build is going to be automatically responsive on a mobile device, which is great. But we wanted to take it further. And one of the things that we realized was that a lot of the problems that portals were trying to solve in terms of making business functionality reusable also apply just as much to native mobile apps. And so we created the Liferay Mobile SDK to make sure that you wouldn't have to reinvent the wheel when it comes to things like authentication, localization, surfacing content, and even content targeting. And so that was a great part of our mobile story, but we soon realized that even the mobile SDK is not the most straightforward thing to use. A lot of mobile developers, quite frankly, are not going to want to learn all the ins and outs of Liferay before they can use Liferay functionality in their mobile apps. And so our engineering team realized that there's a tremendous opportunity to make it that much easier for mobile app developers. So with Liferay 7, Liferay Screens is a major part of the story. Screens is, think of it as perhaps portlets for mobile apps or ready-made interfaces. And these are all already wired and connected into your Liferay portal. And so when you're developing a mobile app that is going to be part of your enterprise platform where you want the same login, you want the same identity, you want your customers to have the same profile information, use Liferay Screens, and all of that is taken for you. And finally, with Liferay 7 as well, we are releasing Liferay Push, which is our notification system. So now you get some of the core advantages of a mobile device where you can directly send messages from your portal to your mobile app users. So we've created mobile apps and we've created websites. What do we have to do next? If we're to truly engage, we can't just leave it there. The push to production is just the beginning, really, of our journey in understanding our users. One of the ways in which we want to do that is to extend our marketing campaigns and content targeting functionality to mobile devices. So our team has been working to release with Liferay 7 an omni-channel marketing campaign and management tool that will work on web and mobile, and will also incorporate things like push notifications and emails. So you'll be able to start to manage your marketing campaigns across all of these devices using targeted content, but not just content. All of the applications that are included with Liferay, as well as applications you build yourself, will be part of the targeting as well. So imagine that you have a customer survey that is managed in Liferay as a form. It's a dynamic data list. You've used the Liferay screens to incorporate that into your mobile app. And then you're now able to target that. So it's not the same survey to all of your customers, but you can tailor it according to their industry, their age group, whether they have visited your website recently or not, based on the frequency of their logins to your customer portal. All of these things can be taken into account so that you can actually show a different form to each different user segment. Here we have just an example of how you might use targeting across channels to promote a new white paper that you have as part of your content marketing strategy. And of course, bringing it all together is analytics, both on the marketing campaign side and across all of the engagement on your websites, mobile apps, and across all of your points of interaction. Finally, bringing it all together, unifying the digital journey. We've created digital touch points, and we want to make sure that the users see it as a single journey or a single relationship with your customer, so with your company. So how do we do that? Well, one of the big problems we wanted to solve with Liferay 7 was that of consistent user experience. Most of the major vendors or players in platform like Apple and Google have something in this regard, but we realized that Liferay would need this as well. As we're seeing the proliferation of landing pages, websites, portals, mobile apps, digital kiosks, there has to be something that makes sure that users don't get lost in the number of different touch points. And so with Liferay 7, what you're going to see is that we've applied our new experience language called Lexicon to both the experience for authoring as well as the experience for consuming digital touch points. You see it in places like our new Documents and Media Gallery, for example, where common aspects like header, navigation, management, and content are organized in a predictable fashion. At a glance, even if you're at the back of the room, you can probably tell what the most important assets are and what the most important functions are that you can perform in this interface. You'll also see that there's a consistency with mobile channels, and so here you see how easily the design language maps to a mobile experience. And so with Liferay 7, be prepared to see a much improved user experience across all of our different functionalities of Liferay, but more importantly, guidelines that you and your designers and developers can use to make sure that all of your custom applications are consistent as well. And then the second, and really the most vital part of all this, is having a comprehensive understanding and relationship with the user across all of these touch points. With Liferay 7, one of the areas that we're going to focus is how we can present a more dynamic, a more living profile of the user. With the systems of record and the old way of thinking about portals, the user profile was really sort of a static biography. It said who you were, what your name was, maybe what your role in the company was, and what access you should have to different systems. In a digital platform scenario, we really believe that that isn't enough. You need to have a constantly evolving and dynamic view of the user so that even if they are part of, let's say, your marketing user segment, if all of what they click on and what they interact with in your various systems expresses that they have a very, very strong interest in sales or engineering, then you need to update your understanding of that user. And of course, that is the way that I'm thinking about it as a software vendor with those departments. But for you, it may be that for whatever reason, your CRM captured that one of your key evangelists in your customer was, let's say, a farmer, but they're actually a very important decision maker for their company. So these are the things that we want to do, again, across all of the digital touch points. And then the related part of that is to provide continuity on the journey. So the example that I like to give, because I fly a lot, is with United Airlines. Most of my journeys with United will start on their website or their mobile device in terms of booking the travel. But when I'm actually undergoing that travel, I'm very likely to use the mobile app several times to check for gate changes and seat assignments and things like that. Now, there are, of course, exception scenarios like one I experienced recently when I was flying from LA to Ohio where my flight was delayed. How does United, as an entire company, handle their relationship with me at that moment? Do they, when I open the mobile app, require me to find my flight, kind of look for flight options there? When I go to the customer service desk, do they already know that I've missed my original flight, and have they already prepared new flight options for me? And how do these various channels interact and stay consistent and cohesive across the journey so that over time it really doesn't matter which channel I decide to use because I am in any given time speaking with the same company. So that's what we're after with the platform, and that's the vision we want to realize. Now, just as a closing thought, that was a lot of technology, a lot of detail there, but I wanted to bring it back to one of our examples, which is the My Disney experience. And one of the things that was most striking for me about that case study is that ultimately it wasn't about the technology at all, but it was about the delight that it brought to their customers. And I personally don't know if this photo is staged or not. These kids genuinely look happy to me, so it seems like something that truly happened. But I just wanted to close by saying that ultimately this is the goal. For us, Liferay as a company, this is our goal here at Symposium, is to delight you as our customers, as our community, but also for you as you apply Liferay and other technologies, as you undergo digital transformation, this should ultimately be the goal you keep in mind as well. So I hope we have a chance to delight you during this event over the next couple of days. I'm personally very excited to see many old faces again and to meet new ones. Please come up and say hello and let us know how we can help you better. Thank you very much.